Here you go. Okay, so starting again, since spring 2022, we've been launching our new Masters 5.0 classes, and these launches of the new Masters 5.0 classes will continue until summer 2024. Alongside the new master's classes, we've also been releasing new updates and changes to our regular 5.0 classes, which include the C1, C2, A2, and V1 modules. And these updates include new topics, new books, new updated reading and listening passages that are available in the Smart Textbook. And overall, these updates to the regular 5.0 classes have also resulted in a lot more better student engagement and participation, since the topics are a lot more relatable and interesting for our students. Okay, then here, this table highlights the key changes between the Masters 4.0 and Masters 5.0. And similar to what I just said before, within our new Masters 5.0 classes, we have a lot more diversity in terms of topics, and these topics are a lot more relatable for our master's students. So they have been finding it a lot more, they've had the chance to be basically a lot more proactive in class because they have a lot more insight into the topics that are designated into each of these lessons. Previously in the Masters 4.0, the classes have either basically been fiction or nonfiction. But with the new 5.0 master's classes, we're basically blended both fiction and nonfiction books into a classroom, which allows for both creativity and critical thinking to take place. In the new Masters 5.0, we've also launched new Masters debate tracks. And basically, these tracks have built-in debate skills. We've also updated the debate topics and motions so that, once again, these topics are a lot more relatable for the students so that they can actually input what they believe about these certain issues that are relevant to our status quo. And we've basically built in these skills and exercises into these tracks so that we can all teach the fundamental debate skills in a uniform manner across all our branches. And then along with these master's class updates or changes, we've basically been updating the vocab test and the weekly iLearning as well. Yeah. So these are the new 5 Masters 5.0 classes that are now available. And within these tracks, these are the classes that are there. The green classes obviously designate the day 2 classes. And then something you guys might want to, I'm sure you guys know, but might want to be mindful of is the classes with the MTEGs are basically the classes with the classes that contain some degree of mature content, which could be like violence or swear words. So it has been recommended that these classes are more maybe level appropriate for the older middle school classes. Today, the track that you guys will be focusing on with me is track 4, the debate forum track here. And within the track 4 debate forum tracks, these are a few notices and launching dates that you guys might want to be a little bit mindful of. For D102 tracks B and F, we will continue to launch these new tracks in the upcoming terms. The D103 is the previous N201, which includes the different debate formats. And then we've got D201 and 202, which is the MUN Model United Nations launching in summer 2023 and fall 2023. And then you have the D301 and 302, the mock trial classes that are launching in spring 2024 and summer 2024. Okay, so now we're going to go into the brief introduction of D101 and D102. I feel like I'm speaking a little too fast, so I'm going to try to slow down. So for the D101, we have 2 tracks available, which is track A and B. And the overall objective for these 2 tracks is basically to help students build on the basics or establish a strong foundation of their debate skills. Obviously, students have to work on learning how to critically evaluate diverse debate topics. They need to practice framing logical and relevant arguments. They need to work on supporting their arguments with thorough supporting reasons. This will include, like, practicing their research skills and things like that. And then they will obviously need to practice actively listening and engaging with their opponents in a debate and practice their rebuttal skills. At the end of the day, at the end of these two tracks, track A and B for D101, students should be able to have like a foundation. And after this foundation is established, they will ideally go into the next level 2 track, which is D102, and then they will focus on kind of strengthening these basic skills. Even if students kind of theoretically know how to, how a debate works and what skills they have to work on and what things they have to improve, it's kind of another entirely different story when it comes to like practically showing that they can do it when it actually comes to debating with their opponents. So within the D102 tracks, we're focusing a lot more on strengthening these fundamental skills. And on top of these fundamental skills, we will also be teaching them additional advanced debate skills so that they can basically improve their overall performance as a debater. One of the biggest changes in the D101 and D102 tracks is obviously the difficulty in the debate motions. We have purposely made the D102 track motions a little bit more challenging and difficult for the students, whereas for D101, the motion tracks, the debate motions are a lot more basic and simple. So even a new student could kind of come into this class and know how to approach the simpler debate motions. Yes. And then here is a direct kind of comparison between the D101 and D102 tracks. Both these tracks or programs focus on the Asian parliamentary debate. And the reason why we have chosen the Asian parliamentary debate format is because most of national debate competitions or even our interbranch debate competition uses the same style. Within Korea, for most elementary and middle school debate competitions, they all follow the Asian parliamentary debate structure. So we've found that it's a lot more beneficial if we kind of, get the students to practice the same format that they would probably, do in a debate competition. So that is why we've focused highly on the Asian parliamentary debate style. Both these tracks, D101 and D102, follow the same overall class format and structure. I will also show that next. And then, like I said before, D101 focuses on building the basic debate skills and knowledge, whereas D102, using the basic debate knowledge and skills, we're more focusing on kind of reviews and recap and, strengthening their understanding by incorporating common debate skills exercises and in-class activities. And then on the basis of their basic debate knowledge, we will basically build more advanced debate skills on top of that. And then basically, like I said before, D101 uses more basic debate motions, whereas D102 focuses on giving them more advanced and sometimes complex debate motions. Okay, so going into the class structure, syllabus, teams, matchups, and roles. For both D101 and D102, like I said before, since the structure or the class format is quite similar, I basically just taken this from the D101 class structure. The first hour would be dedicated to the attendance and doing the vocab test for D101 tracks. And then for D102, you can utilize the first 10 minutes or so of class on like checking homework, which I will also explain at the end. And then the first hour, 40 minutes of the first hour, you will dedicate it to the debate skills lesson. Ideally, the debate skill lesson should continue on to the second hour. And then within like the first 10 to 15 minutes, you will ideally start your debate topic discussion. And then you should break up the class into 2 teams, assign roles, assign, teams and sides, and then you will designate 30 minutes for the debate prep. I highly recommend that you do not give them more than 30 minutes when it comes to debate prep, because at the end of the day, students are just never going to be 100% confident and ready to start the debate. And even if you give them extra minutes, they're always just going to ask for more. So it is a lot better if we're a lot more stricter on the time frame, and then you say 30 minutes, that's it. And then you just let them kind of, go with the flow and do what they can with what they have prepared. At the end of the day, if you are strict with this time, prep time, the kids actually end up getting a lot faster with their prep because they know they've got no other option. So I think that especially in the first half of the term, I highly recommend you to stick to the time frame of 30 minutes for the debate prep. Then ideally in the 3rd hour, you should be able to start the debate, and assuming that all the students are able to complete all the roles that they are designated to complete, the debate should take up to 45 minutes. Sometimes, if your students are speaking for longer and, speaking for full speech times, 6 minutes, the debate may be a little bit longer than 45 minutes. But at the end of the day, if you designate the 3rd hour to the debate, that will give you enough time to provide your debate adjudication feedback. One of the biggest roles as a debate teacher will be to provide very, very thorough debate adjudication feedback. It should never be a matter of, oh, you both did very well, yay. You should always determine a winning team. You should always justify why that team won. And one thing that I will always tell my teachers over here in the debate program will be, don't only focus on individual-based feedback. It needs to be both team-based feedback and individual-based feedback. You should highlight what the teams did well together, and you should highlight what the individual speakers did well on their own. And I think by kind of emphasizing the whole teamwork element in your feedback, it actually encourages the students to work together a lot better. But once again, I'll talk about the adjudication again towards the end. So yes. Anyway, that was all from lesson 1 to 10. And then from lesson 11, it can be like an overview of the skills review. The review should be about 40 minutes or so. And at the end of the day for the review, you guys can choose which skills you believe your students or that particular class will benefit from revising. You're more than welcome to incorporate mini exercises or mini activities and games during this lesson to kind of allow the students to strengthen the skills that you believe are needed for that particular class. For different classes, for different students, you will need to probably be a little bit flexible in terms of which skills you review, but that's completely fine. This is basically the time to do that. And then the other stuff in lesson 11 for hour 2 and 3 would continue being the same. And then for the D101, A and B tracks, from lesson 12, you will introduce the final project. One thing that might differ from D101 and D102 tracks is that for the D102 tracks, the final project, they may begin a little bit earlier, for example, in lesson 10 or 11, depending on how big the project is. Ideally, I've tried to break it up so that for the D102 final project, it should be a little bit more work compared to level 1. And it's a lot more kind of individual based final project output. So it should require a little bit more time. So if it does require a little bit more time, the final project may start a week or 2 earlier for the level 2 tracks. For lesson 13, for both the tracks, though, it should be dedicated to the final project presentations. And at the end, just like I said about the regular debate adjudication feedback provided by the teachers, the overall component of this class should be that the students present their final projects and then they either give some form of peer feedback. And obviously you will want to highly emphasize the value of your teacher's feedback so that the students kind of, have this sort of certain pressure that they're getting a final grade for their work. But yes, so that's basically week 13. This one is our D101A and B overall syllabus. Because they're both the same levels, the skill lessons will not change, but something that will change are the designated debate topics. So we've made sure that it's not the same topics for both the tracks. And if there are a few topics that are repetitive, we've made it sure that it's not, in the same order, so that the students can kind of, experience a diverse range of debate topics and motions. Something that you guys do want to be a little bit aware about for the D101 tracks is from lessons 1 to 5, the debate formats are not the official Asian parliamentary debate. Assuming that you've got the newcomers or the new debate students, it's very important that you kind of ease these students into the official Asian parliamentary debate. Oftentimes for the level 1 students, if they're a natural like public speaker, they'll do well, but then we've got some students that are a little bit shy and scared of, speaking in front of people. So you really want to kind of ease them into the debate. So something that you guys might want to kind of be a little bit mindful of is in lesson 1, assuming that you've got like all new students, if you are focusing on teaching them debate arguments for that particular lesson, you want to make sure that you also adjudicate based on the lesson you have taught them that class. And then in week 2, since you've already covered debate arguments in week 1, then you can adjudicate based on debate arguments, rebuttals, and motions. And then basically as the weeks progress on, the standard and the things that you will grade or judge the debate on, the criteria will also naturally increase. And then that will naturally warm them up to the official Asian parliamentary debate in week 6. Yes, so I think that's one of the most cautious things that we have. One of the key things we have to be cautious about as debate teachers for D101, you definitely want to ease them in so that we don't scare them away. And then for D102, here is, you can see that all the debate formats from day 1 will be the official Asian parliamentary debate, assuming that all the students have completed D101 for the 2 tracks, track A and B, they should be able to start with the official Asian parliamentary debate from lesson 1. The debate skill lessons some are very similar, some are revision, some are key recaps and reviews. And then we have a few new debate skills, like I said before, the advanced debate skills, such as definition challenges, ethical principles, and things like that added to the level 2 syllabus so that we can focus on strengthening their overall debate skills. Here, as debate teachers, I think one of the key responsibilities that we also have is to be very mindful that the same student does not constantly represent the same side, and that the same student doesn't repetitively just perform the same role with the same team members. Something that I've actually found personally with my experience in teaching debate is that students are very resistant to working like together. They're very focused on trying to do their own thing, and what they do is just kind of the only thing that matters. So I strongly try to encourage teamwork amongst all my debate classes. And a key way to do that is to be mindful of making sure that you are always kind of randomly shuffling who each student kind of works with. They shouldn't just be always working with their friends. They shouldn't always just be supporting or representing a side that they actually personally believe. You should be challenging them. And, for especially the D102 classes, with the more challenging and advanced debate motions, don't just kind of, allow them to be the side that they personally believe in, challenge them, and if they really support the motion, then put them on the other side and see what they can do. So I do think that this is something that is kind of our responsibility, and we need to kind of make sure that we are aware of this and that we're constantly monitoring who works with who and what side they have been representing and which roles they have been practicing. At the end of the day, our motive is to make sure that all students are basically skilled debaters that can perform all the different Asian parliamentary roles. So I think that that's something very important for us to monitor. Then going into the FDP materials, the segment guide for D101 and D102 are both available in the FDP. Basically, all the things that I have included in this PowerPoint for this workshop are also, you can also find it in the segment guide. So please have a look through the segment guide. Yes. And then in our FDP, you can also find the Asian parliamentary debate roles. This outlines all the different Asian parliamentary debate roles. For D102, which is the level 2 class, since they have finished D101 majority of the time, you can just give these handouts to the students from day one, because they basically already know the basics of how the debate works, and they all know the names of the debate speakers and everything. However, for D101, which is the level 1 class with the new students, I've actually found that if you give this to them in day one, it actually ends up terrifying them rather than helping them, because they're like, oh my God, I don't understand what half of these things mean. So personally, I would recommend that you kind of hold on to this, and then you can give it to them in like week 5 or 6 when you start the official Asian parliamentary debate. Just so that, like I said, for D101 classes, you're focusing on kind of easing them into the debate. However, at the end of the day, it is your choice. So you can do whatever you feel is more appropriate for your students, but I think it's just something to be a little bit mindful of. Yes, mindful of. This one is the speech format and transitions. The same thing applies here. You can give it out from day one, or you can choose to hold on to it for the level 1 students and then give it out later. Once again, this is your choice. This one is the Asian Parliamentary Debate Adjudication Form that is also available for you in the FDP. For this adjudication paper, basically all the different Asian parliamentary roles have been divided. And if you kind of look here on this side here, each speaker has different categories, and each category weighs a different score. And then you will tally it all up, and then you'll give that individual speaker a total score out of 40. When I made this adjudication form, I utilized a lot of the adjudication guidelines provided in like the YTN competitions and stuff like that, so that we can kind of work on tailoring our students to prepare for these national competitions. So I think as debate teachers, when you guys are, or even if you're a new teacher to debate and you don't kind of know how to adjudicate a debate, I think that these basic categories kind of make it quite easy for us to kind of understand what each role needs to be aware of and what each role needs to kind of, do well on in order to fulfill that role successfully. One thing that I really think that you should not do is don't reveal the scores to the students. Don't reveal the individual scores to the students, and don't review the total team scores to the students. Just because often if you kind of tell them, oh, you got like 30 out of 40 for this debate, and then for another debate, they get like 15 out of 40, it's going to like, they're going to damage their self-esteem and things like that. So just this is more for teachers' reference. And then when you are giving them individual feedback, you can highlight, oh, your motion definition was great, but then maybe you need to work on the clarity of your debate, your arguments or your reasons. And, you can utilize this for your individual feedback, but I don't think it's a good idea to reveal the individual actual scores to your students. At the end of the day, if you tally up all the speakers for each side, you'll get a team total. And ideally, the team with the higher overall score will be the winning team for that debate. However, there are minor situations where even if, for example, the government team scored a lot higher in terms of their skills, the opposition team could have done a lot better in terms of actually persuading you about the debate topic or the motion. And when that happens, I think it is completely justifiable for you to give the win to the opposition, despite the fact that the numbers might say that the government wins. This is actually something that does happen in national debate competitions. So I think it's kind of, at the end of the day, if the team that persuades you more, at the end of the day, the team that persuades you more should be the team that ultimately wins, because they've actually, done their job as a debater and convinced you of that matter. However, if you do choose to do that, I think to help the students learn, you should be justifying that point to them. You should be telling them, okay, in terms of the scores, without revealing the scores, you can tell them, the government team did a very good job in terms of, really ticking all the boxes. However, the opposition did a better job in terms of actually persuading me. And then you can kind of explain what they did better to actually persuade you. This is once again why I truly believe that the debate adjudication for the teachers is an extremely important duty and responsibility. Because if you kind of take this part not so seriously, and then you're just kind of like, oh, yay, you both did well, or, you kind of just brush it off, you guys won, but it doesn't really matter or whatever. The kids are not going to try to get better, and they're not going to take this seriously. And then they're just going to end up like becoming a lot more lazy about this. And at the end of the day, as the weeks progress on, you want to make sure that each debate, the quality of each debate gets better and better and better. And I think to really help encourage that, we need to, really take the debate adjudication seriously and show them that we're taking it seriously. Yes. Now, for the teachers portal and the lesson overview, I will show you the D101B lesson plan first. So this is D101B lesson week 1, lesson 1. And then here you basically have the built-in debate skill, and then you've got the example provided in the textbook for you. I strongly encourage you guys to kind of spend a few minutes actually reading the examples that are built inside the Smart textbook. And then followed by the example, you have a little bit of like a class exercise or activity where the students actually try to apply the skills that you've just taught them, and then they try to do it themselves. One of the biggest reasons why I strongly encourage you to look at the examples, read the examples with your students, and also get your students to fill out these class exercises is because it's kind of, they can understand it theoretically and they can be like, okay, yes, I understand what this is about. But then it's kind of a completely different story when it comes to having the students do it on their own. And most of the time, even though the students might know, they do tend to struggle with actually doing it by themselves. And then because our classes are always just, 3-hour classes, it's a lot more meaningful to kind of practice these skills and quickly do these exercises that are provided in the Smart textbook, so that the actual in-class debate qualities get better and better. Because if you kind of, tell them to, make arguments better next time, it's kind of very vague and they're not actually going to know exactly what they need to do to make their arguments better. But then if they kind of practice this, you can give them that type of feedback during these exercises so that when it comes to the official in-class debate, they perform better with giving better arguments. And then for the D101 tracks, you have the designated debate topics, and then you've got the suggested debate motions. followed by the pages that I showed before in terms of dividing the speakers and dividing the roles. And then you've got the area inside the smart textbook where they can take discussion notes, and then they can also take notes during the debate. This is the same for both tracks A and B for D101. This one is the D102A smart textbook page, and you've got the core debate skills that are also built into the lesson once again, and then this is kind of more like a recap. And then here, most of the structure for D102 is kind of like the students are going to try their best to recall what the skills are first. And then if you look at the thing here that's popping up hopefully on your screen, some debate skills are basically it's attached as an appendix, and you can click that on the top and then it'll link you to the appendix page of what the debate skill is, and then you can just click that button again to get to where you were. However, there are also some skills that are, for example, this one, planning effective arguments. Some skills are basically provided right on the next page. And for the skills that are actually built inside the smart textbook and that are just a part of the actual textbook and not an appendix, are the debate skills that I believe is more important for us to cover. For example, to clarify that, AREL, the argument structure, is something that you are going to have taught them from level 1, and it's going to be something you are always emphasizing week after week after week. So you might not need to necessarily spend actual in-class time reading what A stands for, what R stands for. However, for something like planning effective arguments and understanding what they need to think about when they are addressing a status quo argument or something, even though they could have heard it or they have, you spent a few minutes discussing it in class, I think this is something that really you need to kind of keep drilling into them, and they just need to kind of really see it frequently in order to truly understand it and apply these skills. So those types of skills are actually built inside the smart textbooks, not attached as an appendix. But basically, that's how it's kind of organized for D102 class. And then for the final projects, first for D101, it is a prepared debate, which will be introduced in week 12, and then students will be designated roles, sides, and they will have to basically be allocated duties that they need to complete. Then they basically have 1 week to finish it, and then they'll come in week 13, and then they'll be able to finalize it, and then they will actually perform the final debate. Because this is a prepared debate, obviously, as the debate adjudicator, you will want to make sure that the standard that you expect is going to be a lot higher than their regular in-class debates. One reason why we actually made the final projects for D101 a prepared debate is that if you ever are interested in participating in the interbranch Cheongdam debate competitions, currently most of the debate competitions that have been interbranch have been prepared. So you can kind of, use that as a good motivation to kind of see your students and gauge what they can do for a prepared debate. All the key details for this final project are also once again provided in the segment guide, and it is also built inside the smart textbook. So if you kind of follow from lesson 12 to 13, you will see like what you have to do step by step. So it should be pretty clear. This is the smart textbook and the things that are built inside the textbook for you to kind of, complete it with your student, followed by brief instructions on what to do for each page. For D102A, the final project for track A is a prime minister's speech. And basically, this is a little bit more individual based. And like I said before, this gives a little bit more room for individuality. And it is solely more, it is graded based on what you can do as an individual debater rather than what your team has done. Obviously, the standard for this final project, because it is a level 2 class, would be a lot higher than what you would expect for a level 1 class. Therefore, for the D102 final project, it starts in lesson 11, 12, and then the presentation will be in lesson 13. Here, I strongly encourage you to really help the students choose a debate topic or a debate motion that they are personally really interested in or invested in. I've found that, you know, if a student does something that actually matters to them or that they are actually interested about, the final project quality ends up being a lot better. So I strongly encourage you guys to kind of help your students find an issue or a topic that they are actually care about. And that's basically what lesson 11 is dedicated to. You're kind of helping them do like basic research, help them brainstorm basic ideas, and then spend a few minutes outlining, you know, possible arguments that they could use. Once again, the steps for this final project are also available for you, built inside the Smart Textbook, and also available in the D102 segment guide. Yes, and from my knowledge, we actually have like a follow-up Q&A session happening next term, week 7, that we can get together, and I can also answer any questions that you guys might have in terms of, you know, the final project or anything class related. So if you do end up having any questions, just keep a note of it somewhere, and then I will make sure I can help you guys. And yeah, okay. Here now, D101 vocabulary test, and then the D102 iLearning. So the D101 track A and B, this Smart Textbook vocabulary test is the same as all the other Masters 5.0 classes. You've got a mixture of matching the words, and then you've got a few questions where you're filling in the blanks. The vocab lists for both D101 A and B are also available for you in the FTP, so you can download that and then give it out to your students. For D102, we have actually removed the vocabulary, and instead we have replaced it with a lot more iLearning homework. So this is just for the level 2 iLearning. They will need to, number 1, fill out a status quo report, which will happen every week. The key reason why we have created this iLearning is to basically help with speeding up their overall debate prep. If they kind of gain a better knowledge about what the debate topic is, and they kind of have a, you know, foundation of an understanding of, you know, the topic, then it will help them prep faster when it comes to motions designated to that specific debate topic. So we've kind of made it so that they can kind of, for homework, do the report, research a little bit about it, and then the following week when they come into class, the debate motion will be related to the report topic. Hopefully that's going to help them prep a little bit faster and overall gain a lot more knowledge about a variety of debate topics and themes. And then for their second homework, week 2, for example, the first speaker task is basically them practicing. They'll get a prompt, they'll get a debate topic, and then they'll basically conduct some research, and then they will present their speech as the first speaker. Then they've also got a second speaker task, which is they will get a prompt, they will listen to, you know, a pre-made argument or, you know, opinion, and then they will listen to it, and then they will construct a rebuttal that rebuts the proposed argument. And then the clash summary is basically practicing the government whip role. And then they will, similar to the second speaker, they will listen to the opposing arguments, and then they will justify which side is more superior and why. We purposely put these you know, first, second, and clash summary tasks into the iLearning homework, because for the level 2 students, sometimes just one debate a week is not enough practice, and they just really kind of need to keep practicing it. So hopefully by assigning homework like this, it's just going to help them get a little bit more familiar and comfortable with performing all the diverse roles in the Asian parliamentary debate. Then for all the odd lessons, we've also added a component called persuasive speech. This one is more about practicing on improving their overall delivery as a debater. And we really want to kind of encourage them to break out of the habit of just holding a piece of paper and reading off a piece of paper. So we want to focus on how they can kind of engage with certain topics and deliver a speech about that topic in a very persuasive manner. Now, because this is a form of homework that the students might not be familiar to, for the odd lessons in D102, you will see that we've actually put in the iLearning preview pages in the beginning of the lesson. So like lesson 1, 3, and 5, for example. And they're like, we've got a brief introduction of what this homework is, followed by a few questions that the students can basically answer in class. So this is like the week 1 homework, and the week 1 persuasive speech topic is physical and mental well-being. Some students might know exactly what they want to, say about physical and mental well-being. Some students might have no idea what they need to kind of talk about when it comes to preparing an entire speech about this. So for those, students, and for this first week, at least, I think this is quite meaningful for you guys to answer the questions together in class so that the students are more, they are ready to prepare for their iLearning homework and they kind of understand what they need to do. Yes, I think that's about it. And then for the final notes and recommendations, for the debate adjudication, I feel like I keep saying this again and again, but just because of how, seriously I believe we should be taking the debate adjudication. In the segment guide, you've got, I've written a few points for you guys to be a little bit mindful of when you are adjudicating a debate. And then I've also got the debate format and alternative structures that you guys could maybe benefit from having a look at. At the end of the day, in a perfect world, all debate sizes classes won't be too big and it won't be too small, and you will always have an even number so that it could always be like 3 versus 3 or 4 versus 4. However, in reality, that doesn't always happen. Your class might end up being too small or too big. And in those cases, I have proposed a few alternative ways for you guys to format your debate, just so that you can, make up for a class being too big or too small. So it will be quite meaningful for you to have a look at this page and kind of read the ideas here. It's not on here, but something that I think many teachers have utilized is the student adjudicator option. So I will adjudicate the debate and a student will also adjudicate the debate with me. However, if you choose to have student adjudicators, you need to make sure that the student adjudicator also delivers, verbally delivers their feedback at the end of the debate. It shouldn't just be, okay, who do you think won? Opposition? Okay, yay. And just, that's it. No, every student in the class should get a fair chance of speaking in front of the audience. And if you need to have a student adjudicator because you've got an odd number of students in class or because your class is too big, you need to still make sure that the student adjudicator gets at least 5 minutes in explaining who they believe won and why they believe that team won. And, they can also spend time on actually criticizing individual debate speakers as well. So that is also a part attached in your segment guide. So have a look at that if you need more clarification. And then the final point is the teacher's debate. So something that I think I've always mentioned is, I think as a debate teacher, we end up understanding what the students go through every week a lot better by kind of experiencing what it's like to actually be a part of a debate. So what I have done in the past, and some of you guys might want to try this at your branches, is I've given a debate motion to the debate teachers. I've, divided them up. I've made them, government versus opposition, and I've actually made them debate against each other. And then I would give them my debate adjudication and ultimately give them who I think won. By having these teachers basically debate that way and kind of experience what it's like to be a debater in the classroom, you kind of end up understanding the type of pressure your students go through. And I think that it has actually allowed many of our teachers here to kind of, engage with the students a lot better. So if you guys have time to do that, I think that this is a very vital exercise for the actual teachers to go through. Obviously, you can't do it every single term because it does end up being quite time consuming, but at least like once every 2 terms, or at least like once a year, maybe. I think that if you have time to do that, it'll be a very good experience. Yes. Okay, I think that's about it. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Oh, and I will send this link to you guys as well.
I have one question.
Yes.
Do you have any resources for teachers can watch an actual Asian parliamentary debate ahead of time so we have a better idea of how it's supposed to go? I've kind of looked on it, and a lot of the ones that I found on YouTube and stuff, they don't explain what all the parts are. It just shows the debate.
Are you talking about like kind of showing? Maybe
Like what are the expectations that we should have of students in these debates, and how I used to do debate in America, and it's very strict, and it has a lot of very clear rules on what the roles are supposed to be, how they're supposed to behave, how much time they have, and things like that. And I haven't really found a resource for one in English on Asian parliamentary debate.
In terms of like what you expect from them in terms of their behavior, that's actually already provided in the SMART textbook for D101. So it's kind of established, I think, week 1. So those things are the key things that you want to emphasize to your students and things that you should be mindful of as the debate teacher. And in terms of like what you should be expecting for each role, I think that's where, hold on, the adjudication document that I showed you before, I think this is kind of what you want to base each role off of. So the prime minister, for example, and the second speakers and the third speakers later on, you will see that there are different categories for each role that you should be looking out for. And I think that kind of, helps establish what you need to expect. Another thing is as you go through the SMART textbook lessons, for example, one lesson is purely dedicated to like a prime minister or whip. It also establishes like a checklist for what each role needs to do. So I think those things that are there for you in the SMART textbook for the particular lessons will probably help clarify what you need to look out for each role. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question. This is in regard to the vocab tests. All right, over here, Ralph from the Bucheon branch. My question refers to, are the vocab words topic specific? As you mentioned before, there's going to be a different topic each week, or will they also cover the actual debate terms as well?
For the vocab for D101?
Yes, like for example, right here, we're going to be discussing things such as like prime minister as well as like clashes. Will those also be included in the vocab test?
Yes. So they should follow the lesson that you conducted in that week. Special debate terminologies will be included in the vocab list, and then followed by a few like key vocab words that might be linked with the actual designated debate topic for that lesson.
All right. Thank you very much. That's good to know.
Anything else?
I have a question. Do you have any advice for a class that may be mixed? So some students who have some Asian parliamentary experience and others who do not?
Oh, I think that at the end of the day, that's bound to happen. And one thing that you do want to be mindful of is if you tailor your class to the experienced students, most of the time, the non-experienced students are going to basically end up being way too scared to even try. So I'm still going to approach the class more tailored towards the non-experienced students. And even if the experienced students try to kind of, jump the gun a little bit and be like, what about this skill? I'm gonna kind of hold them, I'm gonna be like, no, wait, we're gonna take it slowly. And then when it actually comes to the debate itself, I'm going to make sure that I never divide the teams as experienced versus the non-experienced. And I'm always going to make sure that I have a balance of, 2 experienced kids on one side and then 2 non-experienced kids on the other side. And if I feel like the experienced kids are kind of, finding it a little bit dull because, the other kids are not as good enough or whatever, I'm going to kind of, utilize the experienced students to kind of act as a designated leader for that team. And so instead of just being like, you do your own thing because you already know what you're doing, I'm going to kind of be like, if your team loses, the responsibility falls on you. And so it's kind of more like a fight towards the, both teams, but then it's like, the experienced kids are also competing against the other experienced kids. And, so it becomes a little bit more fun for both groups. However, in terms of the lesson, I'm really going to tailor it to the non-experienced students. And even if the experienced students are kind of like, I already know this, if you make them do it, they're not going to master it. They're not going to be great at it. So, I'm just going to tell them you still need revision. You still need this recap. So focus and listen. But yeah, I think that's
Thanks.
I actually do have one more question. This is in regard to the intramural branch competitions, the debate competitions that happen every winter and summer. Since I noticed we're actually including a lot more classes focused on prep time for the students and actually having them practice preparations, can we expect prepared debates to return to the competitions?
That one I am not sure about because I don't have control over the interbranch competitions. Maybe, hold on, maybe Ben should, Ben?
Hey, I'm actually not sure. See, we're just in charge of the content on this side. The debate competition is organized by a different department, so I'm not entirely sure. If you are curious to get more information, just send me a message in the chat with your email and I'll see if I can find out and send you some more information.
Of course, it's just generally a concern I've had for a while because I've been doing the competitions for quite a bit. And quite frankly, usually the topics for the prepared debates, they come at a very unfortunate time where most of my middle school master's students, they have to take time off away from the academy to practice and study for their exams and such. And so I'm left with like a month to practice, but in reality, I'm only getting like 1 or 2 days with them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I had the same experience in the past with those competitions. It was always at unfortunate times of the term.